And because one of them's already gone.
And now we should be streaming, and we should
one of
have
them's already
audio.
gone.
And now, because Leper is a genius at streaming, and we've actually started, and people can actually hear us, so we should stop talking bad about how CT did at Worlds.
Oh, 100%, dude.
Bro, Pandorum is literally.
I mean,
the
it's
worst
no
player.
secret, right?
We can neither confirm nor deny, only time will tell the validity of that statement.
Yeah.
As with, okay, so speaking of time, right? So, weird little thing. If you are on a team and you have a player that is accused of being suspect and is being denied from that particular league, oftentimes the way that you can deal with this, if you are this particular player that's being denied because you're suspect, if you just, like, stick around in the scene and keep playing games and so on, like, all of the worries go away. It's amazing how many times that doesn't happen, though, so...
Okay, yeah,
Wait, we gotta win games.
Well, I don't even mean you don't even have to win, you gotta play.
this is a better rank for the team.
But hello, this is Silver Scraps episode 3. It's been a long while. I've had a lot going on in my life. Family vacations, people coming into town, and so on. And here we are finally back. It's the lovely Leper Koopa with the static image. We've got the wonderful Arcs and Downfall. And we also have special guest Bean MG today. I don't have a graphic prepared because I didn't realize that he was going to be here until literally we started.
Yeah, my bad.
It's all good. Shit happens.
Sure, just take a screenshot of his profile picture real quick and just plop it.
Let's see if we can do that. Okay, let's do that. Well, y'all...
No, just put a big trophy and then just put it there.
Yeah, we're not rubbing that ego. Put a dead poppy.
Okay, I got this. Okay, let's see
there you
here.
go. There you go.
Y'all need to talk if I'm gonna be doing this. So let's see here.
Hey, Downfall, how's it going?
It's going good. CT confirmed to lose every game without me.
Without you?
My team's gonna hate me for it. I'm just trolling them though.
I just assumed the bot lane was overrated and actually needed to be replaced because they're getting carried every game.
God damn. I mean, you're not wrong. I mean, I'm like on Ash Jail, so.
Don't worry, I'm gonna be throwing shade at everybody because I'm the only one not affiliated with the team on here, so I have no biased opinions. Well, maybe a little, but.
I mean, at the same time, CT is the only team that has 4 gold players on it, on their starting roster. So in a silver league, so it's not sus at all.
Wait, is that oh crap? Is that Big Dog Entourage and ZGG?
Right.
Okay, there we go. we now have a bean logo.
Ooh, feels good, man.
There we go.
I winner.
That's great.
Hey, Leper.
That's fantastic.
Yes.
I told my ex-girlfriend she needed to drop her mistakes, but that's when she dumped me.
Yeah.
God damn.
Okay, I just now
that's
looked
just
at it.
rough.
That's great.
So what we're going to be talking about today in this wonderful chaos of me starting the stream and not having audio input set up on this particular set of scenes because I'm a genius when it comes to running streams, we're going to be talking about playoffs.
Playoffs?
Playoffs, yes. In this lovely new format change, right? Normally we would be, or in the old format, we would be having like qualifiers starting now, and the groups would be merged, and we'd be playing, and basically like literally one team would get eliminated. But instead, we have had a group merge, and the regular season is being extended. There's not going to be multiple stages, so it is top 6 are going to advance into the playoff bracket. And yeah, that's it. There's going to be 3 teams that don't make it. We've got, what, 1, 2, 3, 4 weeks left, and 1 team and 3 teams are going to be leaving us. And the question that we're asking today is, what 3 teams are leaving?
Yeah.
That is adorable, Arts.
Huh?
That is adorable.
It's the Kaisa Star Guardian plush.
Oh, that's cute.
That's awesome.
I
was gonna go with creepy, but if you want to go with awesome,
oh, hold up, I got more.
So, I'm gonna go out on a limb here, and this is the question. So our arcs. I know you're distracted by plushies right now, but what 3 teams are not gonna make playoffs?
What is one team that's not going to make playoffs?
Well, there's 3 of them, but you can tell me one of them if you want.
Oh, I'm going to say the spicy ones for the last picks. What do you mean? We're going to go with the easiest one in the bracket, E7.
I mean, E7 just by the nature of the schedule right now would have a really, really hard time. They would need to win every single match at this point to even have a shot.
And then they would also need the hope that PGS, GSG, TDF, and Event Horizon lose almost every game, and that the head-to-head's going favor towards E7.
Their best score is E7, and unfortunately, I don't see a huge success for E7 to get out. I don't like saying that. Like it feels bad to me to say, but just unfortunately, when your schedule is at this level and you've FF'd the way that they have, it's hard to look at them finishing out the split.
On top of them having maybe the hardest strength of schedule of any team that's still outside the playoffs.
Absolutely. Who all do they have left? They have CT. They have
Knights of Oblivion, PGS, and GSG.
Yeah, that's hard because right now that group, given that Chronic Wheels is no longer with us, is by far stronger than the other group.
I mean, I also have E7 too, not making it out, but I do like this idea that maybe they could take down Coachless Tyranny in a series. That would be great. Is that one streamed?
We don't.
That one is streamed. That one is streamed.
It is streamed. It is streamed. So, I mean, I think they're pretty new, right? I've never heard of them before.
Consequences has been around. Their top laner's been around, but I am not familiar with any of them beyond that.
Yeah, so I mean, just for the ego boost, I would say focus on CT, win that game, and then come back next split, knowing that at least you can take down the top team. It's probably not going to happen, more than likely, right? Probably a 10% chance, but if you do it, oh man.
I mean, I think that also goes for Knights of Oblivion. Like, Knights of Oblivion is also a very strong team for Aegis.
Yep.
Wins against either CT or Knights of Oblivion are going to be a huge ego boost for E7.
And when you're at the stage that E7 is, you have to start looking at, like, to be really blunt about it, do I as an individual want to continue playing? Because if you're somebody like me, you have fun when you playing in the scene and being part of the scene, whether or not your co-host has a variety of Pokemon plushes on their head and body, or whether or not you win any games. You never know, right? So it's some people only have fun when they win. It's a matter of priorities, and it's also it's a good thought process of what do I need to do as an individual to get better for my next split. Does anyone not have E7 being eliminated?
No.
Okay.
No.
I don't think.
I don't think so either. Okay.
I think it's hard because
we don't know,
like,
right? We still have four weeks of play left, right? Like what we are saying now, anything can happen. People can be discovered as Smurfs. Happened to Revolution last split with EDL, right? Where like
gotta open that salt.
I mean, shit happens, right? When you have a Smurf like that, this stuff happens.
The biggest one was ISQ and RA. Because if ISQ doesn't get disqualified, then Shadow doesn't go to Worlds and they don't win.
Right, stuff can happen. Like we still have 4 weeks to play. A lot of stuff can happen. Nobody has truly clinched playoffs yet, right? So everything that we're saying is speculation and prediction, right? Based off trends, based off the players, and so on. But stuff can happen. I mean, you can have, as I have seen happen, a rogue org owner to try to withdraw the team from the league at the last minute because they're pissed at their players and they don't want their players to make playoffs. I've seen stuff. Yeah,
that's kind of messed up.
It's actually why most leagues have rules about like the team being able to participate or change their org, right? In such a situation, most tournament organizers are gonna like check in with the team to make sure that the team wants to continue. But I've seen that happen or attempted to be happening multiple times. So my other team that I don't think is spicy at all, unfortunately, that I don't think is making it out is Event Horizon.
Yeah, they have to. They're currently what, 2-4.
2-4, yeah.
They have 3 games left. They play PSG, Coach's Tyranny, and Knights of Oblivion.
Yep.
For them to make, I think 5 wins is the magic number for playoffs.
Yep.
Yeah.
And they would have to win all 3 games.
Yep.
And then hope that DTF or PGS lose 2 of their last 3 games.
Right. And then when you get into that situation, then you're dealing with game record tiebreakers, match record tiebreakers, and head-to-head, right? And, like, DTF has head-to-head against Event Horizon. So it's like, it's a lot harder when you look at that as well. And also, if you look at game diff, -4, or game record, -4 is a lot harder to overcome with 4 weeks left than +1 is if you're looking at tiebreakers. Just a lot of things have to go Event Horizon's way to do that. Now, to talk a little bit about Event Horizon, I think that Xantos is a fantastic mid. And overall, the team is very well. I just think that it's a little bit of inexperience and not necessarily knowing what's needed to, like, play competitive. I don't know how to say that. Aegis is a rather tough league this time around. There's a lot of really strong players here. And
We still believe in Florida Man?
I mean, Florida Man was fantastic. I played against Florida Man. Dude shit on me in lane. Like, I'm not even gonna... I mean, the series didn't go his way, right? But I cannot sit there and go, like, oh, goodness, this guy didn't... is horrible. Like, Florida Man is a very serviceable top laner. I don't think I'm that serviceable, but neither here or there, right? So this is a team that, like, especially if these players stick around, these are players that could be assets to teams in the future. I just think that there's some, like, macro issues and inexperience issues just from, like, not being exposed to the differences between solo queue and, like, organized play.
Yeah, and I think you hit the nail on the head. Like, this league is really, really stacked with a lot of good teams, especially at the top. It's very top-heavy, and I feel like there's a bit of a gap. Whereas if you were in a regular league, let's say like RA, and that's the one I exposed to recently, they would have been middle of the pack teams. They would be making playoffs.
Right.
But you have teams like, CT obviously, and KO is really, really good, and Nameless Knights, in my opinion, is actually pretty good as well. You're looking at a lot of players that could play up a league if they chose to, and not be terrible. So.
Yeah.
I think you hit the nail on the head there.
Mm-hmm. So this is the next question, right? Does anybody have Event Horizon making playoffs? I'll take that as a no.
I don't personally.
Yeah, okay. So we're kind of unanimously agreed here. This is where it gets interesting, right? Because if we look at the reasonable things, right? Since we lose 3 teams. There's 3 teams right now that are in that bubble point. You have Perpetual Gaming Solus, PGS, you have Dream Defeat, DTF, and you have Goon Squad Gaming Psy, GSGP. God damn.
That's a name.
Yeah.
It's a mouthful.
Absolutely. That you can choose from. And I think that there's arguments that can be made in this, and this is going to be, I think, where we have the most. Because the teams above them, Knights of Oblivion, CT, Team Shadowfrost, Nameless Knights, all of these teams are... they've only lost 1 game, right? So just if you look at the way that the standings are, it's a lot harder for these teams to drop out. Although they can drop down into, like, the 5th, 6th kind of thing.
Yeah, I was about to say, Knights in Oblivion and CT could still technically both not make playoffs.
Yes.
At the same time.
Yes, that is correct. Same way for Nameless Knights and Team Shadowfrost. There is no team right now that has officially clinched anything.
That just goes to show how much league we have left to play.
Exactly. We can speculate. We can say things are likely or not likely, right? But
now the hardest thing here is discussing the three teams: PGS, DTF, and GSG.
Well,
I believe-
DTF has leper on it, so automatically we're out.
Right, and they, dude, this is your year.
No, it's
this
not.
This is your
Nah,
season.
this is your year, dude.
No, it's not. It's not.
Bro, you got Puffin. You're fine.
Puffin's a great dude. Puffin's great.
I mean,
I
I don't have Dream Defeat not making play. I have them making playoffs. There's too much veterans there. Too many champions on that team. I can't vote against veteran players that good. So if I can't do it, my mind will just not let it.
So
I'll have you guys making playoffs.
So here's the crazy thing. PGS plays TSF and Nameless. DTF plays Knights of Oblivion and CT.
yes.
If they both lose both games,
Yes.
they're gonna be tied with the same record.
Yes.
Now, week 9, PGS and TDF play against each other.
Yes.
So,
This could be very, very hype.
like that game will determine either the 4th or 5th spot in playoffs, I believe.
Interesting.
I see it determining the 5th spot for that. I think it's hard to move based on strength of schedule. The top 4 teams up or down, just based off who they're playing against.
Now,
But- Sorry.
sorry.
I was gonna say, it's really hard to kind of look at PGS, GSG, and DTF because you've got tiebreakers. Specifically, I'm looking at DTF versus GSG. If GSG and DTF tie, I actually see a world where they both tie in their at their end of season record. That just automatically puts GSG in. As well, GSG, I think, also has an easier strength of schedule in comparison to PGS and DTF. I mean, there's also a world where PGS also just doesn't make it in. They've got Team Shadowfrost, they've got Nameless Knights, they've got DTF, all of them super solid teams. And I think in terms of having PGS versus DTF, I think they match up stylistically very well. But it's going to be hard because if DTF just wins that, I think PGS is the team that just doesn't make it, which is hard to say.
You and I are on the same page, really,
Now-
because in my head, the team that probably, in terms of skill and how good they are, the team I think would be going is GSG, but based on schedule, I don't think they're going to go. I think, and I'm a big fan of PGS. I really am. I like them. I think they have something there. Maybe I don't know if they need to replace 1 or 2 players to make it really click, or if they just need to get better, or a coach, or something along those lines. But I think they're really good. But based on schedule, purely on schedule, GSG's got to make it in, and I don't think PGS is. And like I said, I can't vote out Dream Defeat. There's too much veteran, too much experience. So unfortunately, for me, it's PGS isn't going to make it.
Now, hear me out. The only way PGS or DTF don't make it is if the only way that has an opportunity is if GSG loses against E7 but beats Event Horizon.
So GSG is in a spot that is entirely up to them. In my opinion, they decide their own fate. If they start losing these games, it's all on them. They lost the playoffs, and it's like completely on them. It's no tiebreakers. It's no unfairness. Like your fate is in your hands on this one. It's not gonna matter for the other teams. Like they need to win, and some of them need to beat some good teams to do so. But for GSG, you really have to beat those bad teams.
If GSG wins the next 2 weeks, then that week 9 PGS DTF game is probably the most important game on the entire schedule.
And I hope it's streamed.
Well, it probably won't, given how many times DTF has been streamed already, just by chance.
That was so fun.
Week 9, they have not picked anybody yet, but I think after week 7, everyone will have been streamed. So I think they just picked like the best game.
Hopefully, but I just say it in the sense that just due to no fault of anybody, DTF has been streamed 3 times. We've had 5 weeks.
True.
That one turn.
DTF is league favorite, confirmed.
I mean, we have the best logo, and you can't convince me otherwise.
Absolutely correct. I'm looking at the logos. I mean, TSF comes a close second, but yeah.
Yeah, TSF has does have a good logo. Have you not seen the DTF logo, Bean?
I'm looking at it right now. I just don't know what I'm looking at exactly.
That's a valid interpretation of that. I'm gonna make the case. I'm gonna make the case here that I think that GSG is gonna make it out. I think that DTF is not gonna make it out.
Your own team. Oh man,
that's harsh.
Well,
everybody on Dream Defeat start flaming this map.
No, he's lighting a fire under their butts. He's already calling out. We're not
there,
making it, guys.
there are some. We'll call it systemic issues where there are games that should be won that aren't. There's a lot of, we'll call it, thrown games. If you've ever watched a DTF series, there is definitely a lot of games that are in control that no longer remain in control due to unforced errors and over-aggression and this sort of thing. So I just think that it's a very realistic stance for DTF to not make it out, especially when given the roster additions and changes that have been made over in the GSG Psy situation. That has been a dramatic improvement over the past. So I do think that this team is on the up and up. They have nothing to lose, right? When you're in that position where, as long that you're only, your expectation is to lose and be irrelevant, so you have no fear about messing that up, right? I think that that's a very, very powerful mindset to be in, especially when you start to streak this late in the season. That generally, in my experience, is a team that's going to continue to perform well. So I do think that GSG is probably going to make it out.
Comes down to Lemon.
I think it comes down to PGS too, a little bit, right? PGS, historically, those kinds of teams have been things that, like, the DTF style has rather struggled with. DTF has one of the longest average game times in the entire league, just because they tend to draft scaling. They tend to play a little more controlled in that way, and whereas PGS tends to be much more on the accelerator, not letting go the entire time. And I think that is going to be a big difference here. So I do think that if DTF doesn't make it, it's going to be a lot in that Week 9 PGS match.
Yeah.
At the same time, you can also argue for the other side of that, though, because if DTF has the longest game times, it means they're forcing games to go late. If PGS is not able to really get their foot on the gas and just kind of keep it going, which no team has really done like insanely consistently against DTF, I think it becomes like you could argue for or against it. I think like DTF usually does draft scaling, and if PGS doesn't get ahead early, then I think DTF just wins that series. So I think it's you could argue either side, but I think it comes down to adaptation in terms of does PGS try and draft scaling for late game and try and just meet them at that late game team fight like 35-40 minutes in? Or do they just really look to crush you in the early game? Because that doesn't consistently happen. So
Knights of Oblivion and DTF have the most maps, to use that term, played this season. So it's even against these top teams, they're not closing out. I think the only team that has beaten DTF 2-0 is GSG, which was also probably the DTF's worst showing.
I think game 1 definitely should have been towards DTF. I remember popping in the stream, and I was like, okay, GSG loses game 1, and then I like saw game 2 be won by GSG. I'm like, okay, I guess they're going to game 3, and I didn't know they won game 1.
Right. So I think we're pretty split here as far as like who's going to make it out. There's a case that can be made for all three of these teams to make it out or to stay in.
Event Horizon?
No.
You know what they're you want to know how they make playoffs?
How?
They have to beat GSG, Coach of Tyranny, and Knights of Oblivion.
Yes.
And they have to hope that DTF loses out.
Valid.
That is that or PGS. And out of if PGS, DTF lose out and Event Horizon wins all their games, Event Horizon will make playoffs. Because they will have the tiebreaker over GSG because they will have beaten them. So they won't have to worry about GSG. E7 will be out. And they would have a higher record than either DTF or PGS if they lose out. So that is their saving grace.
Surprise question that I did not prepare y'all for deliberately.
Oh, give it to us.
So, there's 4 teams, or there's 6 teams in playoffs, right?
Yeah.
3, 4, 5, and 6 are going to play in the first round. 1 and 2 are going to get buys. Who is 1 and 2? Because right now, we have 4 teams that have only dropped 1 series.
Shadow Frostblood. You see, I'm on Hopium. So, I'm going with CT and Knights of Oblivion. Because I believe that GSG will beat both TSF and Nameless.
Okay. And group bias as well, right? You're from that group, so obviously your group is better.
Well, that and because GSG plays both TSF and Nameless, and if they beat them both, they'll have at least 2 losses, and I think CT will probably win all their games. They play Event Horizon, E7, and then Nameless.
Well, Nameless plays CT this week.
Yeah.
And KO and TSF have to play still. So, like, no matter what, I think that we're gonna end up having
like a clear.
There's gonna be a clear 1-2. I think. I don't think that it's gonna be obfuscated. I don't think that it's gonna be like, oh, these are the top 3, and one of these is gonna drop down to like the mid tier with PGS and DTF and GSG. I think that you're gonna end up with 1-2, and then the other 2 are gonna be in that mid section.
Now we need to hear our guest unbiased opinion.
I mean, it's a little biased, but maybe it's just because I know them very well, probably better than anyone here. But CT, other than Downfall, of course.
Downfall doesn't know CT. I don't know what you're talking about.
No, I've never met them. I have no clue what you're talking about.
CT with Downfall.
I feel like CT is just the obvious pick. And then for the second one, it's really tough because the games that I saw a lot of really good things, and although I don't think any of them can actually take CT down, and I think a lot of people don't like them, I kind of have a little more faith, I guess. But I think it might be Nameless Knights.
Okay.
I know they lost. I believe they lost to KO, right?
They lost to KO, yeah.
They did lose to KO, but DT's really, really, really good, and I think Pandorum's playstyle is definitely so different. It throws a lot of people off, and I believe their top laner Magikarp. I've watched him play. I know he got subbed out once a little bit, but I think he has a lot of potential if he keeps working on it. I think he could be a good top laner.
They actually changed their top laner.
They changed their top laner.
Yep.
They did change it. And
it's Walk Warlock, I believe.
Yes.
Walk Warlock, yeah.
Or were they? Because I was told they were subbing them kind of in and out. They weren't sure yet. They actually named them the starter.
The current roster sheet shows them shows Walk Warlock as the starter.
Okay. Well, I also know Walk fairly well too. He was on Shadow for a little bit, and he helped subbed us. And I've actually laned against him, and he's not a bad laner either. So I think that's a team that I think can and probably will make the final 2 there.
change my answer from Knights of Oblivion. I'm gonna put TSF up there. I forgot Oni was the jungler now for TSF, and him and Jax I think will do very well to end the season.
Not only that, TSF has been playing without Revan, I believe.
That is true.
So they've been running with a sub top laner until I think early August. So like they're and
oh yeah, I think is that Wolflore that's playing?
Yeah, it's Wolflore that's playing right now, but
yeah.
Revan was a big part of their early success. So I think that for me, it's TSF and CT because you'd have to pay me a large amount of money to bet against CT as much as the CT guys hate it.
I'm just gonna keep quiet.
Yeah, we'll hopefully we get to see the full.
But I do think that it's going to be CT and TSF. I think that TSF is the best team in the group by a decent margin, just across the board. I think they have just much more to offer. So results being what they are what they are, right? But that's regular season, and what matters is playoffs,
Yeah, and you know what? I'd love to be proven wrong by the other teams.
I get proven wrong all the time. It's fantastic.
I didn't think that it would take GSG 4 weeks to get a win. And in a series, they didn't, not like a whole 2-1 win or something, just a single win.
I've been on teams like that. Such as, like, it's a thing that happens, and it's not always clear of why it happens.
Sad little streak.
So, Downfall, what do you think?
I also agree with you guys. I think it's going to be TSF and CT. Being unbiased, just looking at strength of schedule, TSF only has 3 games. They play against GSG and PGS, which I think they just win those games. No offense to PGS, but TSF... Watching a little bit of the games from last week, I wasn't entirely able to see all of them, but they just wanted to, like, they kind of played very similar to PGS, wanting to actually just play around the map, make sure that Jack obviously can do his job, make sure their ADC can also do their job. I also think stylistically it's going to be really good. In terms of TSF versus PGS. I think based on those reasons, and I think TSF is just slightly better than Knights of Oblivion, I think they make it in. I think for CT it's a little bit harder because if CT loses to Nameless Knights, you now have this 3-way tiebreaker between Knights of Oblivion, NLK, and CT. Because Knights of Oblivion has beat Nameless Knights, but lost to CT. CT, in this instance, would have lost to Nameless Knights, but beaten Knights of Oblivion. And Nameless Knights would have beaten CT and lost to Knights of Oblivion. But I also have had recency bias of being able to play against Nameless Knights. And I think, generally speaking, it's hard for me to not think this, but I think when it comes to Nameless Knights, we've played teams very similar to Nameless. Biggest one being TD Syndicate, where their jungler was very clearly their best player, and it wasn't really close. And they have kind of like 4 people kind of supporting them around the map.
Yep.
So in terms of us having that kind of experience playing against that type of team, I think I think CT just wins the series. It could be 2-1, 2-0. I think, and actually, I'll just insert this here. I think Nameless is the most likely to drop farther down than any of the other 24. Just based on the one thing that I have a hard time with is, while Pandorum probably has the widest champ pool out of any single player in the league. He's willing to play basically anything. He'll play anything from Yasuo to Kled to Ivern. He'll play Veigar, basically whatever he wants. But I think when it comes to playing in competitive, playing those different picks, your whole team has to adapt. And it makes it hard unless the team has been practicing those picks consistently. And generally speaking, teams at our level are only scrimming like maybe once a week, maybe twice a week. I'm not sure what Nameless's scrim schedule is like, but I think it becomes very hard to play around that type of play style. But at the same time, I mean, I don't know. DT can also just steal the show and just win every single game for his team going forward. So.
Well, it's in defense of Pandorum here. In defense.
I'm not flaming him.
No, I understand. I understand. He's doing a thing that compensates for his very, very wide pool. He plays, cookie cutter isn't the right word, but he tends to play in a very, very similar manner every game regardless of champion. So it helps that given that his influence is pretty consistent regardless of what he's playing, that the team knows how to respond to that. He's not going to have a difference in the way that he roams and affects the map if he's playing Scion versus Veigar. One's just going to be using, and the other one's going to be using Predator, right? Like, so it's just given the fact of how he plays the game, it's going to be there. But I also understand exactly what you mean, given the TD Syndicate, TD Shadow kind of comparisons here. I also would agree that I think that Nameless is the one that is most likely to drop down. It's just an unfortunate thing of when your style of play revolves around one particular player, regardless of who they are. It gets very, very difficult. It's a thing that I commonly see when you have a team that is always 2-0ing. That oftentimes these teams struggle in playoffs when they're not getting the leads that they're used to. That they're so used to playing the game from a position of strength that when they're no longer strong, they don't know what to do. And it's that kind of way. Like, I know Bean has played with Jesus Juice, and it's like there were very few games where the team had to rely where Jesus Juice was a non-factor or a small part of the win, and it was someone else stepping up and really, really taking over the game. They definitely happened. It's why TD Shadow won Worlds, right? But overall, it takes a lot of work when you're so used to having a player generate leads over and over and over again to adjust to not having that in the middle of a series.
Absolutely.
Correct.
It's also why I talk about, and I know that most of you agree with me, that the teams that have a strong identity to play towards tend to do better, right? And whether or not Nameless is successful or not, they have a strong identity. And that is a trademark of top-tier teams.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, usually.
Generally speaking, right? Generally speaking. It's rare that even if the team itself doesn't know what their identity is, it's a very rare situation where you have a top team that doesn't have a strong identity. Top teams tend not to be changing it up game after game after game. They tend to be have a formula that works, and they keep sticking with it.
So, to your point that you had made earlier when we talked, with Nameless Knights, kind of what you said about Shadow was there was always a secondary player that can step up. It's important that Nameless Knights figures out who that person can be, and making sure that they're in a good position to be able to step up, make sure that they have that lane counter if they need it, or that last pick, or that hyperscale pick where they don't have to just rely on the jungler.
Absolutely.
But
yeah,
they've been playing a lot of hyperscale with Narwhal.
Yep, Narwhal's been kind of that where the DT will take over the early game, and then Narwhal will be there, kind of
On the late
scaling
game.
into the late game. Yeah.
Yeah.
And also with having Walk Warlock being their starting top laner, I think now you have some serious carry threat, not just through the jungle, but you also have the ability to really step up around any area of the map. It's just how does the team play around facilitating through bot side if jungle doesn't get a lead, but bot lane is getting ahead, or how does the team play around top lane being ahead when the rest of the map is not. So it'll definitely be interesting to see.
It absolutely is. As we've said several times throughout the stream, anything can happen at this point. Nobody is locked into anything. To be rather morbid about it, between now and playoffs, people could die. We've seen it happen.
Okay, let's not go there.
Let's not go to my poor ZGG team.
Yeah. Yeah, you were on that team. Yeah. So anything can happen. I work in a dangerous industry. I could lose a hand, right? Like, stuff can happen between now and then. And on that,
I don't want any excuses. I'm pretty sure you played with the player named One Hand, right?
Yes, I did. I did play with a team. I won ZGG with that player.
Yeah, he's a good top laner too. I'm just gonna throw
Absolutely
that out there. Really good top laner.
Yes. So you have no excuses, Leopard. Like, you lose an arm, guess what? You got a teacher.
That's true. That's true. That's absolutely.
I think there's a big difference between a missing arm and a missing hand.
True. True.
Just start playing with your feet. It's fine.
Absolutely. I can hit Challenger with my cheek, right?
No game, no life.
The training arc
arc absolutely begins. So with that, I think that we're just going to call it for the evening. We're going to be back again at some point when we all have schedules that line up. But this has been fun. We've talked about things. Things are going to happen.
Yeah, we definitely didn't talk those first 17 minutes. You were.
Oh well, no, we actually have like a 45-minute show. It's great.
Yeah.
Because I scuffed up the audio and didn't have audio, and I had to restart OBS. So this stream is actually like legit. It's great.
Great. It's LCS approved.
I mean, given some of the technical issues, I mean, it's not like we had a minute pause and we have to replay 15 minutes of the game.
Oh my gosh.
Well, with that, hopefully Riot doesn't curse you, and you have a wonderful day.